So for this video, we're going to be looking at examples where we're factoring trinomials. So looking at number 5, I have x squared is equal to 11x minus 24. My first step is I want to move all my terms to one side, so I'm going to subtract 11x and add 24. Again, you always want to keep your squared term positive, so that's why I'm moving these terms to the other side. Okay, now I have a trinomial, and I see that my a is equal to 1. And so we like it when a equals 1 because we can do our shortcut method. And that was that we would look for two terms that multiply to 24, but then add to equal to negative 11. Okay, so since my numbers are multiplying to a positive 24 and adding to a negative 11, that means that both my factors need to be negative. And so I know I first have negative 1 times negative 24 is equal to 24, but that doesn't equal to negative 11. Okay, I have negative 2 times negative 12, those add to negative 13, negative 3, negative 8, and I see that that is my winner. Negative 3 times negative 8 equals 24, and negative 3 plus negative 8 equals negative 11. And so whenever a equals 1, like for this, I can go straight to my factored form and just insert my two factors there. So I have x minus 3, x minus 8 is equal to 0. And then now from here we can finish out solving. So since I have two things multiplied together equal to 0, that means that one of these has to be 0. So I can set each of these equal to 0. Add 3. Add 8. So I get that x is equal to 3 or 8. So that means if you put 3 or 8 into this equation, you'll come out with a true statement. Okay, number 6, I have 3n squared plus 4n plus 1 equals 0. So this one's already set equal to 0, so I can go ahead and go straight to factoring. Here, since my a is 3, which is not 1, I have to use the AC method. And so the AC method said I'm going to multiply a times c, so 3 times 1, to get 3. And then I'm going to see what two numbers multiply to 3, but then add to equal to 4. Well, the only two numbers that multiply 3 are 1 and 3, and I see that those do equal 4. And so that means that my next step is I'm going to go ahead and split the middle. So instead of 4n, I'm going to have 1n plus 3n, which still equals 4n, but I'm just splitting that apart. And then I'm going to bring down my first term and my last term. And then now from here, we're going to factor by grouping. And so I see that the GCF of my first pair here is just n. And then for my second pair, I see 3n plus 1 does not have a GCF. There's nothing that goes into 3 and 1 except for 1. They don't share an n. So when that happens, that means that my GCF is really just 1. So dividing out the n, I end up with just 3n plus 1. Put my GCF of 1 out in front here, and I have 3n plus 1. My GCFs go into their own parentheses, and 3n plus 1 is equal to 0. And so now I have factored that out. And now since I have it factored, I can set each of these equal to 0 and solve. So I end up with n is equal to negative 1 and negative 1/3. Okay, I see for this one that it's not set equal to 0, so my first step is to subtract 7x from both sides. And so I always want to put this in standard form, so I'm going to put my negative 7x in the middle, so I have x squared minus 7x minus 30. It's equal to 0. So here I have a trinomial, but a is equal to 1, so I can use my shortcut. So remember, that means I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 30, but then add to equal my middle term, which is negative 7. So go ahead and pause the video. I want you to finish this problem. When you think you have it, go ahead and press play. So the answer you should have got was x equals negative 3 and 10. So for this last one, I have 4x squared minus 12x equals negative 9. My first step is I need to make sure this is set equal to 0, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. And so I get 4x squared minus 12x plus 9 is equal to 0. My first step is always to check for a GCF. I see here that 4, 12, and 9 don't have a common factor between all three of them. They don't have an x to share, so there's no GCF. So that means I need to use my AC method here. So I need to do 4 times 9 to get 36. And now I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 36 and then add to my middle number, which is negative 12. Since they're multiplying to a positive number and adding to a negative number, that means they both need to be negative. So I have negative 1 times negative 36. Negative 2 times negative 18, doesn't work. Negative 3 times negative 12, nope. Negative 4 times negative 9. And then negative 6 times negative 6. And so I see that that is my winner. So I'm going to split apart that negative 12x to be negative 6x minus 6x. And bring down my first and last term. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to finish this out, so factor by grouping and then figure out what your x equals. So the answer you should have gotten was x is equal to 3 halves. When you factored by grouping, you should have seen that you had 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3 equals 0. So it's really just the same thing. I'm multiplying the same thing twice. So I only had to solve one equation, and so this one only has one solution.